It's very simple. We're all driving for the same thing. There's one line of code, two words in the code, which are without malice. And there's lots of things about the statute that probably need to be improved on, but those two words, without malice, are the sticking point straight across the board. I was having a conversation with the congressman's office this morning, and the thing came up about, like, they're not always considering prosecuting an officer. Like, in so many of these instances, it's not even a question whether or not they're going to prosecute. I was like, you're absolutely right. I think the without malice clause, it taints and it colors every investigation from the very beginning, from step number one, because they know they're not going to prosecute. Even if they wanted to, they can't. And we've unfortunately seen this proven over and over again. So the bill itself, or the initiative itself, reads exactly the same way the old one does, with, I'm going to read the first three sections, which basically outlines what the changes would be. And it says, Washington State has the most regressive laws in the United States regarding the use of deadly force by law enforcement officers. Under the current law, it is impossible to prosecute a law enforcement officer in a use of deadly force crime. RCW 9A16040 Section 3 states that an officer who acts without malice cannot be held criminally liable. However, malice is a state of mind and cannot be proven. Therefore, the statute as it exists provides a foolproof shield against prosecution of an officer regardless of the circumstances in which deadly force is used. This act petitions to remove the without malice clause in the statute, and this would still allow for law enforcement officer to act in good faith, simply removing any question about malice or ill intent in determining whether or not a law enforcement officer who uses deadly force could or should be charged with the crime.
Does anybody have any questions about that? What does it mean? What does it mean to us? What does this actually mean? As explained to me by Lisa yesterday, it means that there are two things that could happen. And two things, well, one major thing that needs to be done. And the major thing is to gather 250,000 voter registered signatures.
So what we've done here is we've taken kind of a split approach. I mean, there's an initiative to the ballot which goes straight to the ballot. And this is actually an initiative to the legislature. And so I will explain that and what that means, the nuances of that, which are kind of complicated, but we'll make it super simple. It goes to the legislature first. So Karen can actually speak to this probably better than I can, but they are doing a work group in legislature next session, which will be dealing with this issue and this issue specifically. And our intent was to provide an additional little bit of oomph, a little bit of force from another side to support the work that they're doing in that work group for next legislative session. My concern is that the makeup of the legislature as we see it is not probably going to be a lot different than it was last year. So they will get a choice to act. They will, if they get our 250, it's actually 247,000 signatures. It will go to the legislature, and the legislature gets a choice to act. And this is very simple. I mean, we didn't give a lot of negotiating room. We're asking for one thing and one thing only. And if they choose not to act, it goes directly onto the ballot. So we get two swipes at it. Either they do it in Olympia, where they probably should, where we're hoping that they will, where these discussions have been very ripe and on point. I mean, this has been happening now for months at the legislative level in Olympia. Either they do it there because we got the signatures, or they don't, and it goes straight to the ballot. I think Olympia is difficult, very difficult, because the police unions have such an incredibly strong and powerful influence in the legislative process in Olympia. And there are good politicians who are trying to do good work down there. But the arm of these unions is really, really powerful. But the police union doesn't live in my house, and they don't live in yours. So if we get to 2017 and this hasn't been reformed from a legislative process, it will go on to the ballot. And I firmly believe that the people of Washington will happily change the law by removing those two words, without malice. And it changes the landscape of everything.
You know, the only way this is going to work is if everybody gets up, get involved, say something, sign a bill. Now, I keep saying all my life, we're all natives of planet Earth. Everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. But you pray to the same man I do up there. You know? No, man. Get up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I want to see this. I want to see more and more people get involved, say something. I had to teach my children. Call 911. Now what do? I have 3 girls, 6 sons, 10 grandchildren, labored great-grandchildren. I constantly worry about it. I'm walking the streets alone and I don't care. I care about what's happening around me with the community, the people. It's not about just one life, it's about all of us. We live here, this is our home. They tell you to do this, you jump, and they tell me, and I said, boy, I suppose you're going to show me how to do that. He said, but I'm a police officer. Well, I'm a taxpayer. You got no right getting in my face. You're dismissed. They do walk away, shocked. Oh, man. I hope this passes. I hope it goes through because I watch the news, I read the social media all the time, and I see what's happening.
In the memo, I was just looking at the rationale for not prosecuting Ian Burke. And essentially, the prosecutor's office analyzed malice and good faith in the same way. Both requiring a showing of evil intent or bad faith in order to achieve a conviction. And specifically it says the good faith defense also imposes a higher burden on the state in this case than the law requires in other cases of self-defense. This is putting a police officer on a different footing than others who kill. In order to overcome this obstacle, the state would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Officer Burke had a dishonest or unlawful purpose, bad faith. As discussed above, it's highly unlikely that 12 jurors would unanimously conclude that the officer had a dishonest or unlawful state of mind at this moment. So I'm just flagging that my fear is that if we're going to do all of this work to get at one of the 2 prongs that are essentially tracing back to the same concept, which is evil intent, we should do it for both, or we're going to end up with the same result next time, just tracing it to this good faith requirement rather than malice. So I don't know if folks are, if this or soon will be an opportunity to examine exactly what you want to try to capture, or if there's at this point, since it's been filed, if that's a huge threshold or not part of the process at all. But I'm just, and having talked to Dan Satterberg about this decision, I'm so confident that they would have reached the same decision if malice was not a factor, that I just want to put that on the table as a possible target of our work as well.
All of us need to be doing whatever it is in our heart to do to get this law changed. And Lisa is spot on. You will have no problem getting this on ballot and signed because the prosecutors are very happy if without malice is removed. But that's not the only piece. It is a good faith effort. And that is going to require a push. Yet, it is still doable. And the way I'm beginning to look at this is, we're in a nation now where people have no problem with incremental change. And what I had to say to the legislature and anybody who would listen is, we're trying to be reasonable here. In fact, we have guidance on how to improve our law such that it protects the people, the police, and the prosecutors. Now, notwithstanding we're in the middle of an election year, I get that. Yet the pushback was so great it caused me to wonder, well, what are we really dealing with? And I was reminded that not too long ago, the Ku Klux Klan was the police. As a matter of fact, let me go back. It was legal and expected that law enforcement killed, maimed, lynched, and otherwise destroyed black and brown men in particular, people in general. And so we have a whole culture shift here when we're in a state that has no problem spending more money to incarcerate and kill black and brown people than to educate them. And so, whatever you do, know that we need everybody, all boots on ground right now. We need this hit all kinds of ways. Yet, The only caution that we just wanted to put on the table is, yes, you won't have any fight from removing malice without malice. Prosecutors are in favor of that. I mean, that's easy win. If we wanted to do that, we would have done that in past session. But we saw that we're going to deal with it, let's do all of it. And if that means we're going to get a longer battle, then so be it, because some of us have been in a battle for 400 years. And some of us feel as though we're back in 1960. And if we have to be the generation to rewrite forward what this is going to look like, well, then let's all join together and say, free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
There is no one perfect solution to this issue. This is a suite of solutions that need to be implemented one by one by one by one by one. And the multiple approaches, the different tacks that we take at it, I think all of it signals to these people that this is a state that is very, very serious about change. The choice to go with without malice was simply based on the simplicity of it. There's not much to argue about there. And it signals that we are moving in the direction of change, and it brings us up to the lower rungs of what is a national standard in our country.
I think that it is imperative and important to act upon this initiative. Give us a victory. Then we can go back to the people and say we have another thing to do. It's hard to continue to go to the people without a victory. There needs to be some type of victory. We need a victory, and that's how you galvanize people. So what I'm saying is that what it looks like, what it feels like publicly, nationally, to get a victory from the people of Washington, to galvanize the people of Washington to get a victory. This starts a different type of conversation in the nation. And it puts us in Washington at an advantage with a victory. We don't even have a victory to speak on yet. And yes, we want everything. But what's presented to us, we must take it, and then take the next, and then take the next. We don't back away from what's presented. Take it! Because we need to present that to the people and say, we together can do something! Because we can't say that now, because we don't stick together enough. We have all these people in this room for a purpose, and we must act upon that purpose. And you'll see what will happen in the nation. When people feel that white people and black people and natives and Latinos can get together and make a change and a difference. What this does is it speaks to leadership all over. You mean they got 250,000 people to come together of all these different nationalities? That creates fear and respect. This is not a small thing. It's a big thing.
And I want to speak to what Andre touched on. What is different about this is the possibility that we will take it to the people, because that hasn't been done. Most of this work has been done on the legislative level, and we hope that it will be. Like, that would be the best case scenario, is that we go back to session next year, and it happens before we even submit our signatures, before they even have to talk about it. But chances are very high, Washington State will be the first state to take it to the people. And the people will have an opportunity to weigh in on how they feel about this issue.
Folks should read Dan Satterberg's memo and see how much it didn't really matter which prong of the law they let themselves off the hook on. There are other prongs, and in this case two, that did plenty of work. And if you took one away, there was another one ready and willing to do that work. So I feel like in the name of John T. Williams, we should look at why was Ian Burke not prosecuted? Would that play out differently if we succeeded in passing this initiative? And if not, is that really responsive to what happened to John T. Williams?
And that's necessary, and I appreciate that.
So
because we need, hold on here, because we need all of that feedback, and I respect your professionalism and your wisdom on this, right? It's just that we haven't. You say, what if, could it have been? We don't have to be able to say that. We don't have what has been given to us as the people to be able to gauge that. So we can't not move because of what we don't have. We have to move and anticipate that the people and the influence of the people will influence the atmosphere because it has before.
I just think it's important also, and no matter what, I am, to me, not this time, we'll come to a consensus, and I am in support of whatever the decision is. I am also mindful, though, that if we let our $250,000 people who have signed this initiative, if we let them down, which is a possibility, because if they, and not very many officers have been prosecuted under the good faith prong, they are not prosecuted under the same type of a law that I would be prosecuted under. The investigation itself is not the same for a police officer as it is for me if I shoot and kill someone. It's an entirely separate approach. If we let our people down, because they don't understand. The reason I asked Sister what her background was, she has a legal background, if you will. She's been working with campaigns and initiatives in us, that she understands policy. She's able to come up with the wording of this initiative because she has worked it before.
Gotcha.
I'm also recognizing that the doctor and Lisa, this was at the legislature, this very same initiative. So good faith was also left in, it sounds like, in that bill. So there was something going
We took
on.
it all
Okay.
That's what we had to fight.
Okay.
We struck all of
Which
it.
is the way that I would approach, because remember, my belief is that very few people will truly understand the substance, the legality, the legal jargon of the memo or of the initiative itself. So they're going to trust you, especially you, Andre, because of what you have done so far. So if anyone lets the people down, I'm with you, but you're the face of
Yeah,
the
but my
movement.
question to you, Terry, my attorney,
So how? Because
you let the people down.
because another person is going to get shot and killed. We have this initiative. We have this law. The law is different now. It's changed. So for the 249,000 people who don't understand the meat or the substance, the way Lisa Dugard does, the way the doctor does, the way Lisa does, they don't understand that they can still kill under the good faith part and not be prosecuted. So you have done all this work, but you pretty much, they are relying on you. 240,000 people are relying on you because you have essentially, by your actions, a man's actions speak, not necessarily his words, his actions. So you have got us all believing by the way you are acting and by this initiative that they can't kill me, they can't kill my children, they can't kill my sons without being prosecuted. But they can, because the good faith clause is still in there. And all the work that you have done, including getting the support of the 250,000 folks who are depending on you, you have lost those people because you made me believe that this law would change things, and it really hasn't changed anything.
Okay, let me respond to that. I understand what everybody is saying, and I respect it, right? But what's being minimized is when we create what we want to get out of these 249 plus people, the then power that voting bloc represents to the people that makes the decisions above the police officers. What that means to them. Like, that means a great deal because we haven't produced that type of might with that type of unity. It's like we're just saying that we can get all these people together, it doesn't mean anything, but we know that's not true.
I don't think
something
you
real
have.
quick? It's just, to me, it's like this, and I'm not into legalities and politics and all this stuff. But what I do know is that we have to start somewhere. We can't just look at, because we know there are more laws protecting the police other than that. But we have to start somewhere. When black people were not able to do all these things, go into a bathroom, vote, do all this stuff, but we had to start somewhere. And if we didn't start somewhere, we would never be where we're at today. So we have to start somewhere, as little as we may think it seems. The people are not going to be disappointed in us, they're going to be disappointed in the system.
And Terry, I love you. This is healthy. I don't believe that you're attacking me. But I'm just saying for other people. We talk, but for other people, I don't want them to be, I don't want them to be misunderstood.
Because I didn't know about what you
This
just said. I didn't know about that.
Listen,
So I'm educated.
this is very, very healthy. This is how we get things tight. This is how we, tighten all the bolts and everything. Healthy back and forth with great minds. This is what they do. Okay? So don't be alarmed. This isn't a conversation. We're all involved. Healthy. Great. I am ecstatic that we're back and forth to get this thing tight. I just want to say that. Enrique and then Charlotte.
In the spirit of that right there, I think that one of the things, we were actually talking about this right before we started, is that the process through which we go is not only a process to change the law, but also to change our hearts and minds and to educate ourselves. And so what is the ultimate goal? Is it to change a law? I think that's one piece of it. But I think the greater goal is to change how we think and how we feel. And so even if there is a law that says that if an officer shoots somebody, they're going to be prosecuted, that doesn't solve the problem of why they did the shooting to begin with, right? So now we have something that can protect us if we get that changed, but has that changed the culture and the mindset that officers go out and how they treat us, right? Are they still pushing our kids around on the street even if they're not shooting them, right? So I think that we could spin our wheels in the mud and say, well, we might fail, but we could also say, well, what if we don't get it changed, but now we have 250,000 people who said, wow, what do we have going on here? We're actually changing ourselves. So I think that you're right. It has to start somewhere. And you're also right, it's starting right here.
Exactly.
Lisa, to that, and then Charlotte, please, after Lisa, and then Mark.
What you said is my highest dream, by the way. That officers will be held to the same standard that I'm held to. That if I walk out on the street and I shoot somebody, we're all on a level playing field. And I think they should be, because they are so trained. We hear all the time about their training. All of the training, they should be held to a higher standard than I am. But you and I hold the same vision. However, part of what I really invite here and what I embrace is the opportunity to get this into 250,000 living rooms, so that we are educating and we are talking about with a larger public relations campaign, so that it's not just happening on my porch or in this room, but we have an opportunity to explain without malice and with all of the words and all of this, and that we can be talking about this in a very big and public way.
I see this a little differently. You said if this is a symbolic move, say it. I don't think it's a symbolic move. I think it's a move. See, once you continue to move, you continue to move. And if we're moving, we do this part, we move, we do the next part, it's just moving.
Well, the goal is
we need to keep moving because we're not doing anything.
If that's the goal, if the goal is just to move, then move.
Move,
If the
gain, 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 gain.
If the goal is to change the behavior, then we have to assess the goal. But if the goal is just to move, then one can
You
move.
can't change the behavior unless you galvanize people to move about something. We have to make people feel, okay, say for instance, we got everything struck out, right? But we did it without the people, right? So we feel like, okay, we're cool now. We're not gonna be cool because there's still gonna be situations that happen that police gonna kill and they're gonna try to maneuver their way through. But when we have people rising up, galvanizing, standing in solidarity, and we have the voters, and we have registered voters, then we got a power bar. Then we have to be contended with. It's not just individuals getting things changed without the people, right? The leadership. I believe so much in the power of people that are galvanized because I've seen it before. I've seen it through other movements before. You think Martin got what he wanted at one time? He didn't get it at one time. Increments. There were baby steps. But the people felt encouraged because they were moving, seeing things progressing through movement. I don't think anything is symbolic if you can get the people to move. Did you see what just happened over there in Chicago? Did you see the power of the people rise up and get them people thrown out of office? They are fearful for people to stand up. They don't want the people to get together. They want to keep the people divided because they can do what they want to do. But if we can get the people together and informed, because we are not informed, that's the whole point.